We have to realize something. The debate about what to do with the country over the next 4 to 6 weeks is not primarily an empirical debate about science out in public. It is not about flattening the curve. It's not about looking at the case fatality rate versus the infection fatality rate or anything like that. The current coronavirus debate happening in popular culture is merely about who favors a let them die approach and who does not. And increasingly, we have to accept that Republicans are making clear that they favor a let them die strategy. Now, so far, it doesn't seem like the governors of the states with a lot of protests are being influenced by the protests. That's a good thing. But it does appear that a lot of Republican governors are starting to open things up. I'll tell you which ones. And it's important to understand that the flattening of the curve doesn't directly save lives in the sense that when you flatten the curve, you still expect that over time, without a vaccine, the same total number of people would become infected. It saves lives by spreading that same number of cases out enough so that everybody can get the best medical treatment possible because the medical system isn't overwhelmed. And by virtue of making sure resources are available, it saves lives. Imagine 1 million infections in a week versus 1 million infections in a year. Many more people will die with 1 million infections in a week because many won't be able to actually get the medical care that would be appropriate. Either way, it's 1 million infections, but we want to spread those out as much as possible. Republicans are increasingly saying, forget about spreading it out, let it rip. We are okay with letting them die. Florida's starting to reopen beaches. Now, you might think, well, Florida must have the virus under control, right? Very wrong. Florida has nearly 30,000 cases. They're in a very clear plateau. If you loosen guidelines during a plateau, cases start going up again. Next week, South Carolina is set to reopen beaches and retail stores. South Carolina, for now, fortunately doesn't have that many cases, by which I mean they have about 4,500. But we can expect those to start going up once they reopen. The Georgia governor, Kemp, says that businesses like gyms, barbershops, and hairstylists can start opening this Friday, April 24. Theaters, restaurants can follow on Monday, April 27. You've got Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott saying businesses in the state would start to reopen next week through a series of executive orders. Texas has about 20,000 cases. So, of course, we can't hide in our houses forever. But this has turned into essentially a referendum on let them die because of the Constitution in some vaguely phrased terms, or don't let them die. Now, during the 1918 flu pandemic, there were instances of parts of the country ending quarantines early, and very quickly cases exploded. Look at Philadelphia as one example. We're already starting to see that. Look at Kentucky, for example. On Sunday, Kentucky had, on a percentage basis, their biggest single day increase in cases to date. And what's important to understand at this point, we've got to understand this, guys. Even if the case numbers are low, the percentage increase is what you want to look at because the term going viral comes from viruses, and a small number of cases can still be associated with a large percentage increase. And next thing you know, you've got a rapidly increasing problem on your hands. Now, protests during the week have continued to increase. And not surprisingly, we won't know for 10 or 14 days. That will also lead to a spike in cases. We have Wisconsin. You might remember Wisconsin voted on April 7th. We are exactly 14 days from that election. And after leveling off and starting to come down, Wisconsin is now starting to see an uptick in cases. We'll know the full scope of that within another couple of days. This stuff is real. And, Trump likes to call it the invisible enemy. It is invisible in a sense, but you see the mass gatherings and then you see the case numbers increase. That's not invisible. So the strategy from Republicans is let them die to save the economy. And we have to recognize that a widespread pandemic will hurt the economy even more in the long run. There's a number of recent papers about this. That shouldn't surprise us, though. With healthcare, for decades, the Republican strategy has been let them die. We can give everyone healthcare, but it would cost too much. We can't afford to do that. So people that could be saved from a medical perspective are going to have to die because we don't want taxes to go up or whatever bill of goods they've managed to sell us. So we're fighting the virus, and we're fighting the disinformation, and we're fighting the irresponsible actors. There's a lot of fighting going on. And the numbers in another couple of weeks may look very, very bad for some of these red states. I hope not, but that's what the early indicators are showing us. There's a YouTube channel called Upflip that we're partnering with. I would love for you to check it out. I've put the link right underneath the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel when you're there. Upflip is a channel that is all about exploring small business and what makes a small business successful. Every episode interviews an entrepreneur. You take a tour of the business, and these are not generic interviews. You actually get a really fascinating deep dive into the history of the business, the mistakes the entrepreneur made, what they learned, what motivates them, what a day is like running their business. And you get all sorts of super interesting and valuable insight about what it's like to run that type of small business. As a business owner myself, I find Upflip's videos to be endlessly intriguing. Even if you don't own your own business, it is really great for a general audience. It's stuff that I think just about anybody would find fascinating. And you can check it out by going to davidpakman.com/upflip. The link is right underneath this video. When you're there, make sure to subscribe and click the bell for notifications.